Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, the Water Rats. When I met Just Adger, as he was known in 1993, I was 17. He was a visiting cabaret comedian at my first summer season in the business, and you never forget your first, apparently. Adger instantly became our friend. He would talk to all the team stars in blue coats, and we always looked forward to seeing his act. Since that season, we've stayed in touch ever since, and that was 28 years ago. We've worked on countless gigs together, also shared some great moments at water rats balls, golf club dinners and weddings. You'll hear all about these in today's Eyes and Teeth when I welcome the brilliant, going once, very funny, going twice, master of auctions, sold to Adger Brown. Welcome, Adger.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Steve.
Hello, mate. No, it's a pleasure to talk to you. We met in Barry Island. Yes, so Barry Island for me, I was 17 years old. And you were quite young as well back then, Ad. You were probably in your 20s. Were you in your late 20s in 93?
Yeah, I'd have been 29.
I enjoyed being 29, you know. So you were a resident, not resident, but you were there every week at Barry Island doing the theatre variety show, and then you do your own spot. And I used to love coming in and watching you. And I remember Barry Cheese, Mike Doyle, some really great acts on there. And so you were on the circuit and doing your thing, and you were such a great comic. I remember a lot of us coats would say, "Oh, Adger's in tonight." We'll all sit at the back of the room, and we all used to usher people into the theatre and watch you do both spots. You do that and then go and do the adult later on. Do you remember your first ever gig on stage, and how old were you, Adge?
Well, my first one was a bit of professionally would have been over in Jersey, and I'd have been 20. I went over as a resident entertainer working for the Modern Hotel Group. They had 4 hotels in their chain at the time.
Okay.
And I went over, I knew nothing about show business. I was just a jack lad, but went over, I was sort of into a DJing in the hotel, bingo calling, do your own little 5-10 minute spot before each night started.
Yeah.
And you watch all the other acts that were performing, and you sort of learn from them. So
Brilliant.
yeah, it wasn't the best start, because when you don't understand, when you're a young 20-year-old upstart, and in Jersey it was more of a mature audience for
Right.
not wanting to offend people, because I'm in that more mature bit now. But they were older than I was.
Okay.
When you're telling ruder jokes, albeit no swearing, they don't accept it.
No.
From a younger. And I told a joke that was a little bit strong for them, and I sort of subsequently died. And my mate, who I was out there with at the time, he just sat there laughing. He said, "You can't do that," and then explained the reasons why. And I thought, "Oh, okay, well, there's lesson number 1.
Yeah. Was he a comic, or was he just a mate of yours?
No, he was another resident entertainer,
Oh,
but
okay.
More on the musical side.
Yeah, but it's nice that he noticed that and he wanted to help straight away.
Oh,
Yeah.
we became very good friends, and still are. He's in Australia now, but we still keep in contact. And
Oh, that's good.
yeah, we had some great times out there. It was a great learning curve, and a great place to learn.
Yeah.
It was fun, and then I was able to develop my cabaret spot, and the boss I was working for at the time knew what I wanted to do, and he sort of guided me nicely, gave me that chance for the cabaret, and I took it, and that was in 1988. And funny enough, working with Tony Adams and Grandad, who you
Yes.
would have known quite well. A
Yeah.
great event.
He was
in the
brilliant.
day.
Yeah, we lost him this year, sadly. He's,
Yeah,
yeah.
great bloke. Absolutely superb he was. And I learned a lot from him as well. What I enjoyed about Tony being, I was only 24, 23, 24 then. He was 50, and he obviously had extensive knowledge of show business, and he taught me so much. And he was prepared to share as well. That was what I liked about him.
Yeah, that's great. Because he was from Sheffield. So how did your worlds collide if he was from up north and you were... Where were you when you met Tony?
We we were funny. It was a touring cabaret show in Jersey. Still out there. I had 6 years in Jersey altogether.
Oh, brilliant.
So, yeah, 1988 was my first sort of cabaret experience.
Yeah.
Doing 2 shows a night, different hotels. You only done sort of, I was obviously Tony's support. We had 2 dancers, keyboard and drums backing us. Tony topped the bill, and there'd be a vocalist as well. It was an hour to an hour and 10-minute show, and then you set up for 9 o'clock, break everything down, get to your second venue, set up, and have to be on by 11. It was hectic, but it was so much fun.
Wow.
And by the end of the season, you have it down that you get 5 minutes break before you go on. It was just horrendous when you look back at it, but it was great fun to do at the time. And again, you learn so much. And yeah, it was brilliant times.
Yeah,
he was just fantastic to work with. He kept himself to himself in the day, because obviously a generation gap, and he was there with his wife and family, and
sure,
all our young bucks, we were all out
clubbing,
either golfing, fishing, or going out having a drink. It was a fun time.
Oh, nice. You do look up to these comics. So I remember Barry Island, like yourself, watching you and all these other comics. And then in '94, I went on to the Isle of Wight and watched loads more comics. And I did learn from them, you know, watching how they structured their acts together. And you get, how did you find your style, Adger? You because you're like gag, aren't you? You're a nice storyteller as well. You're good at doing the both. And where did you get your flow of your delivery? Because it's a really nice, I mean, now, as I see you now, and in the last 20 years, your delivery is so relaxed, and it's like you're finding your audience within the first few minutes, and then you just ride the wave as you go along. It's a really nice way of performing. How did you find your way?
Well, Jersey again, because at the time, Jersey, in sort of the time I was out there, 85 through to 88, it was still quite a lively place for a holiday. And show business, they had some great venues. So I used to have Monday nights off. So Ian Sludgley's was the resident comic at in on the Park.
Yes.
And every Monday you'd have one of the stars of the day coming over. So your Stan Boardmans, Bernard Mannings, Bob Monkhouse, people like that, they would be your top of the bill.
Wow.
And then Sludgley's was the resident comic there, and he was just brilliant to watch. He was funny. Yeah. And he had great timing with some of the gags that he was doing. It was just unreal. And then the Sunshine Cabaret Club, which I was lucky enough to perform at in 92. I was the resident comic there, but when I was out 85, I think Mick Miller was the resident comic, along with another great comic from the Northeast, Mickey Gunn. You know, when you sit back and watch these people, who was at the time seasoned pros, absolutely superb, and you just pick things up from the way they work. And Roy Walker used to come over,
fantastic,
and he'd be in on the Park as well. And if you just watch and learn, and if you're prepared to learn, then you're going to pick little bits of, nuggets of information that you probably, just went in for some reason. And I just sort of developed a casual style that I enjoy doing for myself. It was probably forced at the first sort of couple of years because it was something new to me. I didn't know what I was doing. And I sort of developed. So, but one of the other comics at the time who I got on really well with was Shane Ritchie. Okay. And he was the resident comic in a touring show for the company I was working for. So I used to see them quite often. And Shane was just mad. And it was funny to watch, and he's no different now.
No, he's mad. He's living in the castle at the moment, just living...
Yeah, I saw him go in there, and he's the same now as he was back in 1985 when I first met him. So, again, you just sort of pick things up from people, and you learn. And even from the singers, the vocalists and that, their stage presence, the way they work. And my boss, who we sadly lost a couple of years back, Paul Wagner, who gave so many youngsters an opportunity, he had a way about him on stage. The way he worked the crowd, it was just phenomenal. So I probably subconsciously picked up a fair bit off of him in the way that he worked as well. over the years, it's sort of just developed, and I've become quite relaxed in the environment that I work in now, and I just enjoy sort of maybe pushing boundaries to a degree within the audience that I've got, and then play. But obviously there's always somebody there that kicks off that you shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that, but because they don't like the joke, they ain't really got the right to say that no one else is allowed to like it.
Yeah, sure.
You don't like it. I mean,
yeah.
I don't like every joke I hear, but I think we're fair play. I didn't find it funny, but other people will.
Yeah, and there'll be another one coming along shortly after, so you can wait for the next one.
There's loads of people who don't find what I do funny, but what they find funny, I probably don't find funny. So there's no real rule of what's funny, what's not. If it's funny and you find it funny, laugh at it. We're being told we're not allowed to laugh nowadays, but that's a political thing, isn't it?
TV seems to welcome a lot of that material that gets banned in a live show. But I remember you were on a TV show. Did you get a little telling off for doing a naughty joke on there? Or
it was a student audience.
Yeah, sure.
That was on the floor for this show called Funky Bunker, and it was a Friday night, so it'd probably been on about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I remember.
If you were watching it, you were drunk eating a kebab or whatever. But I'd opened up, one of the girls there, just stunning looking girl, nice outfit, and I said, that outfit looks very becoming on you. And if I was that outfit, I'd be coming on you as well. And an adult joke.
It fit within the
today's world
situation.
You get pulled up for that being a sexist joke, and it's sort of crazy where we are at the moment. But that gag was fine as far as the producer was concerned. And most of the floor, all the camera crew and the runners, they're all. None of them were offended by the joke. You learn, and it was an education. And I learned, and you don't stop learning in this game.
Oh, controversial.
I used to bump into you a bit after Barry Island. I think I saw you at some gigs when I was starting out in cabaret. But then I loved you so much, I booked you for my sister's wedding in Basingstoke. And I know you know the story that's coming up, but can you tell us about the latecomer that turned up?
Yeah, of course. Always a bit of pressure when you're doing a job for your mate, especially when it's a wedding and it's family and local to me as well, because obviously I live just outside Basingstoke. You were Basingstoke, and
we were Hampshire boys, weren't we?
Yeah, we are proper Hampshire boys. But what I didn't realise was your sister had married a guy from Whitchurch, is where I went to school. So a lot of my school friends were in that audience as well. So,
I didn't know that either. That was coincidence. So.
Yeah, and so it was a tough gig as it was, but then of course we're where we are in that room, and I'm sort of probably 10, 15 minutes in, and then 3 guys turn up late. The geezer in the door, I said something, I said, oh, sorry I started without you, mate, wasn't sure what time you were coming. And the guy who was sat right at the front got right up in my face and went, don't start on him, mate, that's Dean Francis, he's the British middleweight boxing champion, and he don't want it to kick off, it'll all go mad. So, come in, mate, come in, sit anywhere you want. And to be fair to Dean, he was pretty good about it, bless him. He's no longer with us either, is he?
It was an awful ending, bless him, but he was a lovely guy. And he's a friend of my family's. Do you know, after you done that line, you say it was a little bit of a tough crowd, but you had them from that moment onwards, definitely, didn't you? Because of that moment. So it's a great ad-lib.
But it was tough because I knew not everyone, but I knew most people. And when you're on your own doorstep and doing a favour for yourself, you don't want it to be wrong. That's the pressure that you feel. And it was a good laugh. And I had a good chat with Dean afterwards, and he sort of enjoyed what was there, albeit he missed the first 10, 15 minutes. But you're right, he did make it. It was funny that the geezer who got up in me face went, don't start, that's Dean Francis, a British middleweight boxing champion. And I'm like, I certainly know how to pick them.
Ice and Teeth.
No, you've. I've got a review here. I want to read to you quickly, and it's on your website. It's a nice review. I'm writing to thank you so very much for your support at our clay shoot at Newick Park. Once again, you're absolutely fantastic as our auctioneer. We're extremely grateful to you for your continued support, Dame Vera Lynn. You've got some lovely quotes on your website, but because you've been around the after dinner circuit and doing sports dinners and celebrity events. Over 30 years in the business, charity golf events and corporates. These events for me are a little bit daunting still because the audiences are, they're quite tough crowds, aren't they, Adge? But you seem to go in there as a breeze. You're very well seasoned in those sort of venues, which would normally terrify me as a beginner, but you do all the Variety Club of Great Britain, even the Grand Order of Water Rats. As an audience can be tough crowds because they've seen it all, they've been there and they just love entertainment, but they can keep you on your toes, So what is it that you love about all of these sports dinners, the golf dinners, that make you so comfortable on the stage?
Well, I think the pressure is, for me, if I do a sporting dinner, they're there to see the main act, if you like, the footballer or the cricketer or the rugby star that I may be working with. And the comic is there really to save the night if the other speaker is not that good. And
has that happened?
Well, now and again you get we all do, you get a bad night or the audience don't appreciate your stories. And for, say, like some of the speakers, they talk about their careers and you want the funny stories, the characters that they were with and all that sort of stuff. And other people like the purist side of their sport. So they obviously want to hear different stories. But what happens with a lot of them, they try to become comedians and start doing all the jokes the comics that they've worked with have done. And they put all these jokes in and then they get into their stories, and I think that for me, I just sit there smiling, thinking, well, you never delivered that gag very well. You destroyed that, but you're better doing what you're good at, and that's telling the story about your career, and then try and make that funny.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of them, and they're good. Like Ray Parler, Paul Merson, Matt Letizia, people like all those guys, the rugby lads that I've worked with have been great, and they tell their stories, and they make it easier to go on if they're good, because they're well happy with the star of the show, and then I come on at the end as an added extra, if you like, and I just get in and I do what I do, and it's all old school, and I just do what I think people like laughing at, and are too scared now to do in terms of material because they don't want to be criticised for what they're doing, but people still like laughing.
Of course they do, yeah.
They like laughing at old school jokes, and if you've got women in the room as well, they like a laugh. They don't like a crude joke, but they like a cheeky joke, adult joke. It gets a bit frustrating when the men go, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. There were women in the room." Well, don't underestimate that the women haven't got a sense of humour. Their sense of humour can be wicked.
Sure, yeah.
And they like a good laugh. What they don't like is an OTT sort of joke. It's finding the balance. If you get the women laughing, the men relax, and it's just great. But I just go in now. I've done so many of these sort of events. I just relax watching the other speaker, and I'm just looking at the room thinking, they've just made the job easy for me. But I've also got that added bonus because I do the auction and stuff for them.
Yes.
I utilise that as a tool to get them on my side, and I sort of incorporate the comedy into the auction. So it's sort of a bit of a cheat in a way, but it raises them money, it keeps them all on board, it entertains them, and everyone sort of goes home happy. But going back to Dame Vera Lynn, she for me was the most iconic person in my generation of lifetime, the most iconic showbiz person. A, there was, and B, the fact that I had the opportunity to meet Dame Vera on numerous occasions, and I was lucky enough to become the auctioneer for her for probably 7 or 8 of her events over the years. They were always in Sussex, and she sort of always asked to make sure I was available to come and do her events, and we had some good laughs. And she even wrote to me once. A lot of the letters were typed, and she signed them personally, but I'd done one little event for her, and she wrote a little handwritten note, and she wrote the whole letter herself, and I've still got the letter.
Wow.
And just sort of thanking me for what I'd done and how she enjoys the way that I work.
Yeah.
And always gives her a smile, because he's cheeky in the way that I do it. And when you are in the company of icons, and she to me was an icon.
Sure.
When they like you and you do a good job for them, then it seems to be easier when you do other jobs, because they're not always as high profile as her job because of who she is. I mean, I looked up and just respected her every time I was at an event that she was doing, and she would always come to the events that were raising money in her name. I always sat on her table with her daughter and son-in-law, and it was just like talking as I am to you, and she was just easy to be in her company, and I just loved her. I mean, she was a great person, and when you look at what she'd done, all the war widows and everything else, she was just phenomenal. It was, a pleasure.
You do become friends, and they do get to know you, didn't you, when you're doing the auctions? So you're one of the most sought after auctioneers in the South, and it's literally you have helped them raise millions over the years, Adger, haven't you? Because you do use your humour and your style and your delivery to get people laughing and then raising their hands. You have got these items bought for more than what they would have if someone just done a proper auction. But that is your job, isn't it, as an auctioneer, to raise more money and raise laughter while you're doing it, and it really does help to get people to put their hands in their pockets.
Yeah, I think it is an art. It's making it look easy is the hardest thing to do. But what I try to do is, you're looking at a room and you're working on numbers for who's going to spend, and at an auction or any charity event that I've done, it could be 100 people, it could be 500 people, there could be 1,000 people in that room, but there's only 10 or 12 people that are going to spend the money in a room. It doesn't, if you've got 1,000 people in the room, that doesn't mean that you're going to have 1,000 bidders or you're going to have 100 bidders. You are only looking at 10 to 12 people that are going to bid on any item that I've got to sell.
That's interesting, because I've literally I've got 10,000 people follow me on Facebook. I've just plugged a DVD sale and I've sold 10. So it does go to show, doesn't it? Like, you think that we'll do well tonight, but your audience and your auctioneer business, and so you're targeting a certain set of tables in that room.
Yeah, and if I make some of the bidders, they know I'm going to, they're going to come. They're coming to help the charity, number one, but they're still looking for a bargain. If they can get an item at a good price, they're going to have it. But at the same time, they want something for their money.
Yeah.
But they want to help the charity. I can't name the charity, so that'd be unfair. But one of the items was 3 different golf courses, which were all very good, and they're all in Surrey. Woking, Walpolston and West Hill were the 3 golf courses in a package. Now, for a golfer who knows those 3 golf courses, those 3 four-balls are a cracking item, because they're 3 golf courses that you would love to play.
Right.
And not easy to get on, and they're expensive if you do get on them.
Okay, so good prize, and 3 days out.
Prize.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that was worth, in the auction, realistically, £800 to £1,000 is what I'm going to get for that item. Now, I always ask the people I'm working for, what's your target price on these items, because I will not sell it until I know that we can sell. And anyhow, they said, oh, we want $2,000 for this golf package. I said, well, to be honest, you ain't going to get it. I said, you know, it's only worth £800 to £1,000 to anyone who's in this room, because everyone who's in this room can go and play on those golf courses.
Yeah.
Because they'll get invited by somebody else. But to help the charity, they will pay up to £1,000 for that package. You ain't going to get $2,000 for it. And, you know, she got quite shirty with me because I told her the truth. And she said, well, I want 2,000. So when it came to selling it, it was at £900 and it wasn't going to go anywhere else.
Right.
It just wasn't going to move. And I just said, well, I'm going to have to sell it. And I sold it for 900, and she was like, she wasn't happy. But I said, it never cost you a penny, because all 3 of those golf days were donated. But you saw what they all did. They stopped bidding at 900.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't worth no more than that to them. I said, so you got what I told you it was worth at the beginning, and it's just experience. But sometimes you go and you get an item and you sort of advise on what you think it might go for, and it goes for so much more. And of course you feel brilliant then, because
profit,
just in the way that I try and sell, and you get people in, and when you get them in and they're hooked and you play them, I don't sort of embarrass people into spending money. I feel if they want to spend it, they will.
Yeah.
And it's up to them, and generally they'll spend more if they're not forced to spend. And it's not fair to embarrass someone in an auction to spend their money, or even the company's money. They could be out 5 times that week, and it don't matter how successful a company is, doesn't mean that they can support 5 nights on the trot at sort of big money.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is difficult. But yeah, they want to support the charity, they will do, but do it in a nice way for them.
That's why humour helps, isn't it? Humour helps during that process of actually getting them to raise their hands. Do you find that if people have had drinks, it really helps your job easier to buy? I have bought more things at auctions. I mean, I've been on the table with you at the water rats, and I've seen water rats drinking and bidding more, and then their partners nudging them to say, we don't want that, you know. So what do you think drink helps?
It can. It can be the absolute nightmare, not necessarily for me as the auctioneer, but for the charity, because what happens is sometimes, you know, the drink will take over,
right,
and people just have, you know, they just throw their hand up. But when they get up in the morning and then they realise what they've done, they want to retract the bid. And
does that really happen? Wow.
Yeah. They don't come to me for that, though. That's
no.
not my problem.
No, your job's done. Yeah.
The event, but I did have one, funny enough, only in Eastbourne at the Grand Hotel, where on the night someone bid for a holiday, and you know, they ended up winning the bid. But by the time the event had finished, the guy was going up to the event organizer and saying, I can't afford it.
Wow.
I don't even know why I bid that high, but as it was, someone else who was the underbidder took it for the underbid.
Yes.
But the guy, you know, he just said, I don't know what happened. He said, I can't afford it. But he was, you know, bidding on the night, and therefore stopping someone else who really wanted it, having it.
Yeah.
And it could have been.
That's true.
That was a few quid that the charity ended up not getting because of his ego, or B, the drink.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Drink can be,
the bane of your job. Yeah, it could be. It could be quite dangerous actually, because you don't want any animosity between it, do you know? Because you want to raise money for the charity. You want the people to be happy with their prize. But this guy, was it for a weekend in Eastbourne? That's why I didn't want it.
I think it
Yeah.
There would have been a couple of other costs involved, like maybe having to get your own flights, but that would have been explained to them before.
No, of course.
I sold the item. So you're buying the holiday without the flights, or you would have got flown to Miami, but you'd have had to have made your own way from Miami to get to the island by paying for your own flight there.
Sure.
Or whatever the package was set up. But yeah, I've had it a couple of times where someone's big money because they want to try and be, they want an ego with the people on their table, but then the next day when they wake up and realise what they've done, they sort of retract the bid, and there's no one other than the charity witnessing the guy doing it. So to everyone who was on that table, he looked like, Mr. Macho, but how was he buying that? And yet the next day he's phoning up the charity and really taking money from them because someone else would have had that item.
Oh, that's a shame.
You can't go back the next day
and
say to someone, will you buy this, because this other person is...
Yeah, they've moved on, haven't they? But these after dinners and sports dinners, you're so highly respected in these. Can you tell me, Adger, who was funny in your eyes out of the sport legends that you've worked with? Who has been the funniest, unexpected person that you've worked with?
There's quite a few that I've really enjoyed, but I think my favourite that I've worked with in recent times would be Ray Parlour, who's obviously a former Arsenal and England player. Yeah. And there's a couple of reasons that I'll go with Ray, because Paul Merson, when I first worked with Paul Merson, his story is just unbelievable. And Paul Merson's become a good friend, and I love him, love working with him. But it's the way with Ray Parlour, when I first, when Ray was on TalkSport as a radio presenter, or co-hosted the show, I didn't actually think, listening to Ray on the radio, it was sort of a new experience for him, and I found him difficult to listen to on the radio. Yeah, and then I worked with him, and he's just like one of the lads. He is a proper bloke, and when he's up there working and he's telling these stories, and the stories are real stories about the Arsenal days, they are really funny stories, and he just delivers them beautifully. And every time I hear the story, even though I know what's coming, I still laugh. But he makes everyone who's in the room feel like his mate. He's quite classy. The other one I like working with a lot is Kevin Keegan, because in a different way, Ray, again, he is just so friendly with everyone, very approachable, and he makes everyone feel like he's their mate. And he does a lot of research of the area that he's working and compares it to where he was brought up, and then he gets into his sort of main routine. But the first part always changes depending on where he is, although I know what's roughly coming. And he's just a great bloke to work with. Jeff Miller, who's from the cricketing world, very, very funny. His story through his career of cricket is just brilliant. You haven't got to be a cricket fan to love his story, but you wouldn't understand most of it unless you followed cricket.
Sure.
And
it's just funny.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the rugby lads that I've worked with, Bill Vickery, great England captain and legend, Martin Corrie, who was again another England captain, Ben Kay, who was just an absolute gentleman. I think the rugby world, they're just a different breed of person. They're just great people, so laid back, different mentality to the footballing world. Matt Letizia, I mentioned earlier on, another great bloke. Good fun. First sort of few times I worked with him, there were stories that you thought, I don't know whether you should have told that one.
Really?
Sort of, you might be exposing a little bit of a few things that maybe not right. But again, they learn and develop, and he's become a good speaker, and he's great company on and off the golf course. Where I've been lucky enough to golf days that I do with them all.
Yeah, that's nice that you say that Matt's become a great speaker. So you do get to see the progression of them learning along the way. I mean, firstly they were footballers, and now they're retired, but they get to do these sports dinners, and they get paid well to talk about their careers. But you see the progression, and you see them getting better as lecturers, or talkers, So that's nice. You see that in them, and I guess they all, a lot of them know you now. They're your mates, aren't they?
Yeah, I think especially because a lot of them, when they finish the football, a lot go into the golfing world, play golf, support the charity golf days. So they come along and they're playing a team of 3 people that pay for a team, and they're joining them as the 4th player. They'll stay for the dinner, or most of them. Yeah, you become, because you're the comic on a lot of these events.
Yeah.
They get to know you, and then there's this respect, professional respect, because they know how difficult it is if they do the dinner circuit.
Sure.
Some of them have tried the dinner circuit, and even though they've had a sort of good career in football, they find the dinners more intimidating, working to 100, 200 people, than they do playing in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people.
Yeah, sure.
And getting called names all over the place. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many that have become really good friends. I mean, sadly, Ray Clements, who we lost yesterday, he was a great supporter of many charity golf days, Variety Club, Sparks Charity, which was a really good charity back in the day. There wasn't a golf day that he wouldn't have been at. This is when you know that you're doing something right. Ray Clements phoned me up once, and he said, I want you to come over. He said, I organise my own golf day. I go to Spain every year. It's with a load of mates. He said, I've got a few of my Tottenham teammates coming, some of my Liverpool teammates coming, and some of the old England teammates coming. He said, then there'd be a few of the friends that you'll know from the golf circuit. And he said, I want you to come over and do the comedy spot for us on the last night. So I went, yeah, I'll have some of that. And I have to be, it's only a 3-day, 2 nights, 3 days. And it was one of the best events I ever went on. Wow. It was just absolute class, so funny, and so many legends of football there. You had the Liverpool boys coming over, and then there was all the Tottenham stars that Ray played with, and a few of the England boys that didn't play for Tottenham or Liverpool. I just was accepted into the fold. I knew a few of the non-sporting people from other golf events, and they had a respect for me being there, and had a real cracking time as well. Yeah. And it was just an absolute privilege to have been part of that golf event, and it was probably one of the top 5 golf events that I've been on. It was just brilliant. But when you get people like that ringing you up, Adge, I want you to do my golf day, you think...
It's a privilege, isn't it? It's a great job. It's nice you enjoy your job. And at the end of the day, it's a day job, isn't it? Because you're playing golf with them, and then you're having lunch, and then you're driving home. So it's not bad having a day job, and it's kind of relaxing for you as well. And as you do get to know them during the day, as you say, they respect you by the time you go on stage, which is nice. Ice and Teeth. As you know, Adge, I'm not a sporty person. I wish I was, because all my mates are into football and golf, but one day maybe I'll get there when I stop doing as much work. But I tell you, my knowledge of football, I was actually booked to go on Talk Sport, and I was panicking. I phoned up Tucker, who's a mutual friend, and I said, Tucker, I've got to do Talk Sport, and he said, talk about so-and-so being relegated. I went, okay, brilliant. So I went away, I wrote loads of lines down, and I had to talk about, they were predicting scores, And who is it? Is it Rigsby and the Hawks? Hawks and Risby? Talk Sport.
Hawksby and Jacobs.
Crosby, Stills and Nash, that's it. And Jacobs. So I was going on this show, went into London, and I thought, right, I've wrote all these predictions down with gags, But they wanted a ventriloquist on, basically. So I went on with half a lager. I had all my gags ready, and I was ready to banter with these presenters. And they put me into this recording studio and said, right, just record into that microphone and we'll put that out later. And I said, oh, I thought I was actually in the studio. And they went, no, you're recording yours now, and they'll play it live on the show in an hour. So I thought, oh, okay. So I had nothing to bounce off. So I thought, this is my first opportunity to talk to football enthusiasts and actually make it sound like I know what I'm talking about for the first time about football. I got to that part when I remember Tucker say that. And I say, yeah, I definitely think this guy's going to get renegated. And I said renegated instead of relegated. And when they played that part, they laughed at that bit. It sounds like I wrote it that way, but I didn't. I don't know what relegated, or I don't know the difference between renegated and relegated. And so, but footballers would think, what's this idiot talking about? And they're right, because I had no idea what I wrote some really nice lines. I'm quite proud of it, but it's something I've not really been into. But some of the sports dinners that I have performed at, you hosted one a couple of years ago for Bob Wilson and the Willow Foundation. Triple Cream were on. It was just a really great night of entertainment, and that's what they're there for. And the Willow Foundation it's a lovely charity, and it's from Bob's heart, isn't it, and his wife's heart. So I mean, that was a great night. So I've enjoyed doing some. I've struggled on some of those events, I'll admit, but I'm actually starting to grow into them. The last couple of years, I've started to relax more now, and I feel like you're always learning in this business, don't you find?
The daft thing is, there's a massive difference between sort of a cabaret performance and a dinner performance.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a transition in understanding how you can do the same sort of material, but you have to deliver it differently.
Yeah. And
it's the way you present yourself to the audience. A lot of the time I'll be sat on the top table and you're feeling what's going on with the audience before you get up. Sometimes, going away from the sporting dinners, if you were sort of on an insurance institute dinner, you'd be sat on the top table and there's a lot of speeches before you which are industry related.
Yeah.
And they can bore the back end of the audience off before you get up.
Yeah.
And of course, by the time you get up, everyone's feeling fed up anyway, and it's one way or the other. It's
yeah.
going to go.
Yeah, they're drained
because they want to laugh.
Sure.
Or B, they're just fed up with listening now because they've listened for an hour to rubbish. Yeah, stuff that they already know because they work within the industry. But they rubbish. I'm not talking about material in terms of jokes. It's
sure. Some
of the stuff that people rabbit on about at these dinners. You think, it's unnecessary. Just do 5 minutes, sit down. But they drag on, and then, of course, the timing of when you get on...
It slows the evening down, doesn't it? It slows down their energy, which doesn't help the comic.
The whole scenario of some of these dinners are just different. I'll give you another example. I've done a wedding recently, 15 people, and due to the restrictions... they're a sort of similar age to myself, really, but the son of the bride, it was her second marriage, he used to work on the comedy circuit. He finished about 10, 12 years ago. Okay. He used to work the alternative circuit, as we would have called it then.
Yeah.
So we were different styles of comic. So I thought he wouldn't enjoy the level of humour that I'm going to come in on because it's all old school.
Right.
And there was a big difference between the alternative circuit comedy and old school comedy, and a little bit of divide at one point. I thought, he'd be quite critical of what I do. It's 3 tables of 5 people that I'm working to. Wow. And I do my spot at this wedding, and it was really enjoyable, to be fair, because it was very intimate. The room wasn't the easiest to work, but it worked. And when I finished, I spoke to the lad who used to do the comedy circuit, and he went, of all the people that I've worked with over the years, he said, I don't think any of them could have done what you did.
Wow.
That you just got up there, no microphone, water off a duck's back. You took what I think is a terrible room to work. He said, I saw it in the day and how it was all set up. He said, I said to my mum, I'm glad I'm not working in this room. He said, it's just terrible. He said, it's set up really badly for a comic. I wouldn't want to work it.
Yeah.
And he said, you've just come on and you've ripped them to pieces. He said, I really enjoyed what you've done and how you did it. He said it was a masterclass. And I thought...
That's a nice compliment, isn't it, coming from a comic?
And it is a compliment, and that's how you got to take it. It was a good laugh. I mean, I knew 2 or 3, the bride and groom I knew anyway, which is why I ended up getting to do the job. But they had so much trouble with all the lockdown stuff. They were supposed to get married on the Saturday, and they had to cancel that because of lockdown.
Yeah.
And so they brought it to the last day before the lockdown.
Oh, okay. Wow.
On the Wednesday, and they just done it in a conference room, let's say conference room in their back garden. He's got his own business, and there's like a unit out the back, which was a gym and sort of other bits, their own gym. He called it a conference room, I called it a shed. But it was done up beautifully for what their event was, outside catering for 15 people. It was absolutely fantastic for 140 originally invited down to 15.
Wow. Big difference. And those intimate gigs, they can be intimidating, can't they? But you, like this comic said, you nailed it, which is in those situations. Yeah.
You think because the audience is so small, you're not going to get anything back. But if you try and, like I did, I was talking to them all as sort of individuals and bringing them into what I'm doing and just trying to be relative to everything that is going on. Being sarcastic in certain situations to the groom, play some of the material back against yourself, and it worked, and it was a real good laugh and a pleasure to do. And then it, of course, went into lockdown, and here we are sitting indoors again, sort of waiting to see when we're going to work next.
Well done on that, though. It's nice to actually have had that, because it's a story to tell, isn't it, as well?
It was fun.
Eyes and teeth. For me, the Grand Order of Water Rats came along, and you kindly voted for me and gave me good advice. And my king rat was Rick Waitman, the wonderful Rick.
Yeah.
Proposer Roy Hudd and Roger the Corsi was my seconder. It's been the best 6 years of experience I've had in lodges, so I thank you for your support, past King Rat, Adger. You became King Rat, which was such a great year for you, wasn't it? And you had a brilliant ball, and you kindly handed me over a trophy for Fundraising Rat of the Year, which I'm sure we should all have, because it's what we do. But what does the Grand Order mean to you, Adger?
I think, the pinnacle of anyone in the industry that loves tradition and showbiz. You've got to love the business to enjoy what the Water Rats really is. Funny enough, it was Dick Plusky from The Bachelor's, past King Rat as well. He was my proposer.
Was he?
And it was because I was doing the auction it was Dame Vera Lynn again. It was her, one of her clay shoots that I was at, and Dick was great friends with Dame Vera as well. It was at one of those events, and Dick had come over to me. He went, "Have you ever considered becoming a water rat?" And I just looked at him and went, "You don't consider it, you get invited."
Yes.
And you have to be proposed. I said, "I understand how it all works." I said, are you asking if I want to be a water rat? I said, because you ain't going to be asking me twice. I said, the answer would be, I would love to be. And he said, well, then I will propose you because I think you would be an asset to us. I then was asked to do the auction at the ball. So if those in the Water Rats that didn't know me could see who I was, what I could do for them.
Right.
I ended up doing the auction, which was very successful. And from that point on, it was as you well know, the application process can be quite long.
I remember us talking, it took at least 2 years from when me and you were talking and Roy Hudd had proposed to me, but it does take a long time. And after you've been invited, it's worth the wait.
Mine was 2 years as well.
Okay.
Because obviously there's things that within the traditions of, it was a 2-year process from being asked to when I actually became a water rat in 2005, and I was a triplet. As my initiation was with the dearly departed Brendan Healy, who was a very funny guy and played in the band Lindisfarne.
Yes.
And also Tim Healy, brilliant actor.
Of course.
So
Wow.
the three of us were initiated
All together.
on the same. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Melvin Hayes was King Rat 2005. So it's very rare that you have a triple making.
Yeah, I've not seen one since.
And so I'm a triplet in that light. But when you're rubbing shoulders with the people that you have just looked up to and respected through the business, and for me, one of the highlights was Jimmy Perry, script writer, Dad's Army, and he ain't half hot mum, and
wow.
He was just such a nice guy and loved the industry, loved the people within it, and he would give you the time, just to sit after lodge had finished and you're sitting in bait, you pinch yourself on the way home. I've just sat and spoke with Jimmy Perry, and then the next lodge meeting, he's straight over, and how are you this week? It's been a good 2-3 weeks of what you've been up to, and he had a genuine interest in what was going on. And
it's incredible.
Again, legend, and he's ringing you up. Will you do the Max Miller Appreciation Society? Will you do the Musical Society? Yeah. When people like that think you're good enough to do their events, you just sort of, I think that's when the pressure, I feel the pressure more, is when what we would call an icon within the industry, asking you because they like what you do to come and do something for them. You don't want to let them down, and that's where the pressure kicks in.
Yes.
None of us ever want to let anyone down, but there's times where it means more, probably, than it just being a job, which it is. It is a job, what we do.
It is, but you've got your reputation as well, haven't you? You need to keep your reputation, but you still don't want to let these people down. Yeah.
No, and so, some of the things that I've done, and then when I became an officer, I went through all the ranks. I've done them all: bait rat, trap guard, and cheap trap guard,
collecting,
test rat for a couple of years, prince rat. I was a collecting rat. So I've done my time, and then to be able to take the role as King Rat, when you look at who's been King Rat, and you just think, who am I, to take that? What I enjoyed most in my time is that I love tradition. I love the traditions of what we try and uphold from when it was first set up. And some of those traditions were slipping. It didn't mean quite the same to some of the others, or they didn't appreciate them as much. And I just thought, no, I'm going to find them.
I know you brought some of them back, didn't you?
Quite funny.
It did make it funny because it got strict, but it was strict with passion and remembrance of the actual order, which we need to respect. And you did bring respect in, which and I know past King Rat Nicholas Parsons appreciated you as king, and I remember him, blessing you for being bringing in these fines, because we appreciate as rats. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for others, being a ventriloquist, but I respected you for, let's stick to the rules. Let's not let anything disappear. We don't want that. We need to uphold everything that it stands for.
Yeah, the traditions are there, which that's what makes it so special. The traditions, and although we have to move forward in other ways, we can still move forward by keeping the traditions, because it's what happens within the lodge that is where the tradition is.
Yes.
And, you know, part of your initiation is the charge, and the charge explains the traditions, and that's what needed to be upheld. But that's what made it really funny as well, for all the members that would come to lodge that had already been fined.
Yeah.
Obviously, past King Nicholas hadn't been, due to his work commitments, he hadn't been for a while. And then, you know, he comes in, stands up, and it's easy to get into the old practice of not addressing people properly within the lodge. And he is one of the best orators of a story I've ever had the privilege of listening to. And every time he spoke, he just sort of looked and listened and laughed, and he was just brilliant. And I remember he started having come to his first lodge as me as king. All the other members in the room were waiting for him to make a misdemeanor, knowing that I was going to stop him.
Yeah.
And he made the first misdemeanor, and I said, I'm going to stop you there. Collecting rat. And were you collecting rat at the time?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, because that was you were very good, because you were straight up with the pot. Yeah, it was just the fact that I'd find him. I wasn't bothered what they put in as a fine. That was their choice. If it was
sure.
1 coin, 2 coin, and whatever denomination of coin, it wasn't the monetary value that was important. It was the tradition that was important. And I think I fined him 3 times within his sort of speech. He came up afterwards. I think he might have even done it as a part of how much he respected the fact that I have fined him, and that those traditions through that part of the year were adhered to. And I know that a lot of other members of the order as well, that are regular attenders, enjoyed the fact that I did what I did. And I just made it sort of my year, really, in the way I wanted to do it. Is, as king, you have to do. You find your way of doing things, and if it's all within the tradition of the order, then it was great, and it was fun. I'm glad I only did the 1 year, because
it was hard work, wasn't it?
Quick as it was, I don't think I could have reproduced the second year as good as the year I had. I'll do another one. I think
I look forward to that.
Experience being king as well.
I mean, we talk about, don't we, when we come into lodge, and you try and imagine being there on the night Charlie Chaplin came in, or Lauren Hardy, or Les Dawson, Tommy Cooper and John Inman just sat there bantering like we do. And I'm blessed with the people we've got now. I remember the Northern Lodge, where we had Sir Ken Dodd, Bernie Clifton, Stan Boardman, Roy Wood, and yourself. And wasn't that Northern Lodge just one of those moments where, wow, to be in lodge, it was so good.
It was, some of the funniest. We had a couple, didn't we, where we went up to Manchester, and even the journey up was just funny.
Bumpy.
And, bus, whatever it was supposed to have been.
It was a shed on wheels.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
And, one that we'll always laugh about, and it was
nice.
great. And again, iconic Sir Ken Dodd, what he gave to the industry, and he was just he was brilliant when we had that Northern Lodge. And Stan Boardman, just another. He was one of our top comics back in the day, and still funny now. I love Stan. He's a head case. You don't know what's going to happen when he's there, but that's what makes it funny. And to be part of that,
it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can sit in lodge and you don't know how the day's going to go, and you sit there and you think, if you're new to one of the newer members, you'll sit there going, what's this all about? I don't get it. But you have to come 2 or 3, 4, 5 times before you get it, and there'll be one meeting that will just be the meeting that says, this is what it's all about.
Yes.
And I remember having this conversation with Andre Vincent. I said, you'll sit there sometimes, because I watch people, and I said, I know I've looked at you and your expression, reaction is sort of, I don't know, you're sort of wondering what's happening here. I said, but that penny will drop. This is what it's all about. And I got a message. I wasn't at this particular lodge, and he just sent me a message. He went, that lodge you was telling me about, it's tonight, and it's such a shame you're not here to witness it, because it is absolutely fantastic what's happening, or what has happened. He said it was that lodge that you told me about, and I just thought, that again is another side of what it's all about, where you can talk to someone in the lodge, and that conversation might be forgotten the next day.
Yes.
He never forgot what I'd said, and then when he sent me that message, I just felt good, because
That's nice.
I knew that he appreciated and took on board what I had said.
What you meant. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, because sometimes you sit there thinking, I don't know, and
What is this all about? Yeah.
yeah.
I do hope in years to come that younger rats, like 30 years younger than us, Adger, they could sit there and say, you imagine what it was like sitting in lodge with Adger and Hewlett. But I'm pleased to be there now and love the banter between you, Kev Orkian, Ian Richards, Dickie Gauntlet, Roger de Courcy. It's the camaraderie, isn't it, that's special in that place?
Yeah, I think there's certain lodges where, before I became the King Rat, when you're test rat, you can oversee everything that's happening in the room because of where you are in the lodge. Like, you sit over in the corner and you're just looking at everything, and you're listening to everything that's going on, and every now and again you get the opportunity to throw a line in that's just unexpected.
Yes.
And the unexpected line that us within the business love. And when it's like a little ad lib or something being thrown in, which is what everyone in the room really appreciates and enjoys. And you need those lines, because that's what makes the lodge fun. Yeah, it takes sort of like the serious side of what we do. Yeah, makes it more enjoyable.
It does. For instance, when past King Rat Nicholas Parsons was standing up, and he'd say something, and somebody would interrupt him, and someone would shout out hesitation. You're talking about that, where the banter is. We all know what that means, because just a minute comes in, and we're waiting for the first rat to mention hesitation or repetition when Nicholas was talking. And it's clearly that banter that bonds us together, and in that moment when it's right, and then the jesters comes out, it is a beautiful moment.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to win the Jester's Trophy 3 times.
Hat trick.
Again, it's because where you are in the lodge, you can get the opportunities to throw these lines in. And when you come out with a line that's just so obscure, but to the scenario of what we're talking about at that time, it just makes it funnier. But you've got to be part of that crowd to really enjoy the laugh, because it don't translate well to anyone who wasn't there.
No, it's pure improvisation,
and that's sort of what makes it extra special. And it's when you think who you're sitting with, as you've mentioned, from all walks of show business in that room. Many have done it, seen it all before, and we could only dream of doing half of what they've done in their careers. Like you say, Rick Wakeman, to me, your King Rat, when you join, he is just a rock god, in my opinion. He's just phenomenal for the order, and he works so hard for the Grand Order.
He had 2 great years as king, didn't he? They were brilliant years as well.
And he brought in, like you as well, you worked really hard. If everyone had the same, especially the younger generation of entertainer, was to have the same attitude as yourself in terms of what you've brought to the order, it would be thriving. Sadly, the younger generation of showbiz, they sort of like the people on TV and stuff, they don't really get what it's all about and don't want to join. They're not joiners. They don't want to join not just us, but anything. They would do their bit for charity. Yeah. But they sort of all seem to be sort of quite individual in their own ways, and they don't want to be part of of what we are. But
It's sad to hear that, isn't it? 'Cause, I mean, around my age, we've got David Beckham, Manton Deck, Jamie Cullum. Those guys would be great in the Water Rats, but then they may not be joiners. And so, I mean, that's the sort of people that we'd love to bring in. I was very proud to propose. My only proposed Water Rat was during your reign, which was the wonderful Jimmy Osmond. And it was difficult to get him here, but we wangled it, and he had a wonderful time. He's so proud to become a rat, and it was great.
And you could tell that as well. I mean, it was a privilege for me to have been in the chair as his King Rat coming into the order. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, I had Alfie Bow as well.
Yeah.
Frank Highfield. I mean, I had some.
It was a great year. Yeah.
Mike Doyle, who you mentioned earlier on.
Yes.
Mike, fantastic act, all brilliant. But I remember Jimmy Osmond he was brilliant. And he came with Charlie Chaplin's spat, which he donated to our museum.
He did. He came back on his second lodge. Yeah, I mean, he brought them. Do you know, because he came in as on his night of initiation, he came in and he said, I've got some spats, because we showed him around the museum with scribe rat Mike Martin. And he said, I got some spats, I'll bring them in. And lo and behold, 3 weeks later, he was back in lodge, totally unexpected, and he had these spats, and he presented them there and then. What a wonderful gesture.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. And the other thing that I really enjoyed was how much he enjoyed being in lodge.
Yes, yeah. It was,
he sat there and he sort of understood the history of the order, and you could see he was genuinely pleased to be part of, and also contributed towards, because obviously the history is what it's all about. When you look at the Charlie Chaplin, another great icon of days gone by within the industry, to have memorabilia in our museum is just phenomenal.
It's wonderful.
He's donated another superb Charlie Chaplin piece to go to our own collection. It's just amazing. And then, you mentioned again the ball lad. I mean, Rick Wakeman, for me, pulled a few little strings in making sure that, Alfie was able to perform, and I think he really enjoyed doing it. It was the icing on the cake for that night. But then the spoonful of Sherman.
Fantastic.
The audience was so into what they were doing, they could have carried on for another 25, 30 minutes and no one would have been bored, because...
Could have seen the whole musical, yeah.
Yeah, and all the song choices everyone knew, and I had my daughter, who came with her boyfriend, and he was only 23, 24 at the time, and he's singing along to all the Mary Poppins songs.
Yeah.
I remember my daughter said, she'd looked at him and said, well, how do you know the words to all these songs? And he said, well, because we used to watch the video every week. Come Saturday, it was put the video on, it was Mary Poppins, and you used to sit there, and as kids, you did, didn't you? You watched.
Yeah, everybody knew those songs.
Over and over again, if you liked it, you put the video on, or the DVD, or whatever. And I remember doing
I know.
When my kids were growing up, and no doubt your kids, they've got their favourite DVDs, and they just put them on, and they know all the songs. We used to sing them all the time.
Of course, we know. Yeah, Disney. I mean, Robert Sherman.
Different generations together, they have all enjoyed the same music and songs. So, yeah, I had, with Robert Sherman, have pulled a right favour in on that one.
Oh, it was wonderful. I actually saw the musical. I saw the opening night of Robert Sherman's musical that he produced, and it was so nice to see it as part of your evening. It was wonderful.
Well, it covered all forms of showbiz. The girl that came down from Strictly, who was one of the people we'd helped when she broke her ankle, when she was
yes,
sort of like a dancing up there, and she couldn't work, and the Water Rats had helped her, and she wanted to sort of say thanks to us, and came down, done that routine. She was on Britain's Got Talent this year, wasn't she?
Oh yes, of course.
She was absolutely phenomenal on that with a partner, and they were the ones who were at our ball. So
brilliant.
Everyone says, "Oh, your ball." It was our ball, as I always said. It's our ball. I'm just lucky enough that I was king rat, and I made a few decisions that were good ones. Bit panicky at the beginning because the numbers.
Yes.
You were worried if we were going to hit them, but then suddenly, obviously, Alfie helped put a few bums on seats.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, to build up that whole year, and then that your end of your reign is all riding on that ball, isn't it? And you just brought such a wonderful night, Adger. It was a brilliant night out, and it's sadly my last one. But yeah,
I've got to mention our brother Rat Kev Hawking as well, because
that piece.
He pulled in a few things for me that just made it unreal. The Barcelona opening with the 3 opera singers was absolutely superb.
Yes.
What he did on the keyboard with a tribute.
The memoriam was just stunning, wasn't it? It was so perfect. I'd certainly love to see that again. I mean, we've lost some really beautiful brothers recently, and so it would be nice to sort of do that again with them in mind.
And I'm glad we did it, because so many people that are not in the business that we had as guests said, it was brilliant, because they didn't realise so many people of like the years gone by were water rats.
Yes.
And all the actors that were just in every carry-on film, that people recognise their faces coming up on the screen. Going, he was they just
I know.
Want to know.
Yeah, Gordon Kay, Les Dawson, when they all come up, it was so nice, because people didn't know Tommy Cooper was, and so it's nice to actually do something like that where it reminds them.
Oh, definitely. He's just been brilliant being a water rat. I've just sort of pinched myself sometimes, thinking I can sit in certain people's company and we can just sit there and laugh and joke as though we've been mates from day one.
Yeah, it's great.
Growing up together.
Well, you see that board up there, don't you? When you enter the HQ at King's Cross, you see the board up, and your name is now up there with all those past King Rats, and it will be up there again. But just like it is up there on the golf dinner winners, on the golf day winners, Adger Brown's up there with all your trophies. But I mean, this is memories that we're making, and I've got one more memory I'd like to talk to you before I realised how long we've been talking. It's been amazing going down memory lane, but one road trip that means a lot to me was a night in Birmingham when I picked you up, and I had Ron Lucas in the car, my idol. And and we done this the mayor's ball, the mayor of Birmingham's ball. Little tough night for me, but to have Ron Lucas there in a car share situation, you two got on like a house on fire.
Oh, he was just brilliant. Again, there's another. See, people probably, I know how much effort that you put in to bring Ron over and do these shows, and it's, it doesn't go unnoticed. Sometimes you do things and you think, why am I doing all this? Because no one's taking any notice of what I'm doing, but they do, and I know how much effort you put into yourself, and I respect you for what you do. And I know when you've done Britain's Got Talent, I was sort of like, well, I don't know whether you should or not. Really, it could end your career or damage it. And as it was, it worked brilliantly for you, and you took full advantage. And I'm pleased it went the right way.
Oh,
and
thanks,
when you
mate.
brought Ron over, having seen Ron on the telly years and years ago, you think, right, good actor, and still is. But to sort of sit in the car and have the laughs that we had, and just thinking, this is 3 guys on the road to a job.
Isn't it weird?
And people don't, outside of the industry, they all think we live round the corner from the gig. They don't see you driving 3-4 hours on a motorway, pulling in the service station at 1:30 in the morning to get a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate to get you home, and have something to eat at that time of the day. And we had some good proper laughs, and I sort of follow him on Twitter as well, and watch what's going on, and he comes out with some great little lines and observations on there, and I just smile. Don't always comment. Yeah.
He's got some great lines, isn't he?
That was a brilliant trip. I just think, know, those sort of things, you know, as a memory, because no one else will see that. It was just the three of us in the car coming home from the job, and it was just brilliant having that laugh in the car. And you know, it was just
it was nice, wasn't it? The stories that came out, and on that night we also had Terry Alderton, which is a great comic, and so and he was in awe of Ron. I introduced them at the bar, and he was like, I can't believe. He said, "Oh my God, it's Ron Lucas," and he said, "Are you working tonight?" And I had to put my hand up, saying, "No, sorry, it's just me." And he was disappointed, but he was so pleased to meet him, and
he was a perfect gentleman. And I remember meeting him in your front room when I came to your house, knocked on the door. Just sort of, from the moment I shook his hand, because we were able to back then, we were allowed to shake hands. And he just, you know, I felt quite at ease, and as though I'd known him all my life.
Yeah, he makes you feel like that. It's amazing, isn't it? He's so genuine.
Yeah, brilliant bloke. And he genuinely enjoyed everything that we had that day as well. I mean, it was just great to be part of that experience. So you gave me that, so I can thank you for that one.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. I'm happy to give memories.
Well, you've given me a few great memories. Your sister's wedding.
I thought that might be one you want to forget, but
yeah, I think one of the other ones that always stick out is when we went to. Remember when we all went up to London? You had your mum and your auntie in the van, and it snowed when we got to London.
My goodness, yeah. Was that a Water Rats Ball or Golfing Society?
No,
that was Andy Collins.
Golf Society annual ball.
Andy Collins, wasn't it?
Yeah, we went up to London, and it was all right when we went up there.
Yeah.
And we had your mum and your auntie, and that whoever was Dennis was the guy driving the van.
You remember the taxi driver, blimey.
It was a nightmare trying to get in where we picked your mum up, and then driving out, and then obviously we went up to London, and
it snowed while we were in there.
How we got home, I'll never know.
Well, I do know. We pushed the minibus, didn't we? At one point, we all had to get
in our dinner suits, so we're chasing it up the road while it's moving.
Yeah.
To get back on it.
My
and
goodness.
He just kept going. He said, "If we stop, we'll never get going again." So.
Wow, that would have been a good hike. Oh, mate, yeah. I forgot about that one. We do make some memories. But just before we go, do you have... because I feel like I've known you all my life, actually. I was 17, so it is almost all my life. And do you have a prized possession that you cherish from the business? Would it be one of these auction pieces that you couldn't actually sell, but you wanted yourself? Or would it be Dame Vera Lynn's letter? It's something like that.
I've got two things that I love. One being that letter from Dame Vera, which is handwritten. That without doubt is just sort of priceless to me.
Yeah.
And because I'm sort of a golfer, I was lucky enough to work alongside 6 times major champion Nick Faldo. He had a thing called the Junior Series, which was helping the young talent and the time sort of develop into good golfers. They were good golfers anyway, but trying to take them to the next level. I spent time with him in his company and stuff. I even did a thing for ABC television in America with him, albeit it was recorded in St Albans, but it was only aired in America.
Brilliant.
And it was brilliant. I've got the video clip somewhere here.
Oh, nice.
That's great. But he gave me a couple of items that are golf related, a driver, a putter, and a couple of signed pin flags of where he'd won the Open. I think one might have been St Andrews. It was one of the flags, and then Carnegie might have been another flag that I've got signed, but you don't know if he won the Open there. But he won 3 Opens, 6 majors all told, the Masters. And just sort of having those items, because they were given to me by him. Yeah.
I could see that means a lot. Wow. Yeah, I mean, even I've heard of Nick Faldo, and you know what I'm like with sports, but so I can see that's an incredible thing to have. Oh, mate, thank you so much for being on Eyes and Teeth, Adger. You've been incredible. Been great to know you, and I will see you again. I'm not saying I'm not going to see you again.
Do you know something? Have you been talking to my doctor?
It's been
great.
Been really nice chatting.
It's been a pleasure to have had this wonderful conversation with you. For those that do end up listening to the podcast, if they've got this far, well done for persevering. And I hope to see everyone at some time soon. So stay safe, keep well, and I shall look forward to seeing everyone as and when we're allowed to.
Yes, let's do that. That was Mr. Adger Brown. Thank you, Adger. Eyes and teeth. Thanks to Adger Brown for his time. I'm sorry he won't ever get that back again, but what a joy. I've learnt a lot by watching Adger work an audience or host a Water Rats Lodge. He's always great company, so if you'd like to know more about Adger, then check out www.adgerbrown.co.uk. If you are an agent, by the way, or a member of the public, then don't forget, most of these comedians, entertainers I'm talking to are available for bookings, public appearances, voiceovers. Go to their contact page on their websites. Today's quote is not a comedy quote. It's not from a water rat. But as a special tribute, this is just for Adger. I give you Dame Vera Lynn. It is so important to keep going, keep smiling, and keep hoping. A very apt message there from Dame Vera Lynn. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals provided by Larissa, Lola and Nina Hewlett. Special guest vocals by Rich T. Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Kevin Dean. Tune in next time when I'll be talking to the wonderful Mr. Fraser Hines.